Some people say moving into your dream home is one of life's greatest joys. For me, it started with sirens and accusations. All thanks to a woman I'd never met, who decided that I didn't belong in my own ranch. Let me take you back to how it all unfolded. I'd been saving for years, working double shifts, picking up weekend gigs, sacrificing every vacation and luxury. And finally, the moment arrived. I bought my dream property, a 12-acre ranch tucked just outside a suburban HOA development called Meadowbrook Hills. My land wasn't part of the HOA, I was just adjacent to it, but that didn't seem to matter to her. Her name was Carol. But everyone around here called her HOA Karen. The first time I saw her was the morning of my move-in. I was backing my truck into the long gravel driveway, loaded with furniture, tools, and gear. My buddies were helping me unload, laughing, carrying boxes, setting stuff up. And then, we saw her. Short, blonde bob. Big sunglasses. Arms crossed. A clipboard in one hand and a phone in the other. She stood at the end of my driveway like she was inspecting a crime scene. "Excuse me," she barked, marching up the driveway like she owned the place. "What exactly are you doing here?" I thought maybe she was a neighbor being nosy, so I smiled and said, "Just moving in. This is my new home." She didn't smile back. "Whose home?" she demanded. "Mine," I said again, more firmly. She looked me up and down. "Do you have proof of that?" At first, I laughed. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. "I'm the HOA president," she said, lifting her chin. "We weren't notified of any sale. I've never seen you before, and that truck doesn't belong to anyone here." I tried to explain, calmly, that my ranch wasn't part of Meadowbrook Hills. That I had closed on the property 2 weeks ago, and that everything was legal and squared away. She didn't like that answer. "Oh, I think you're mistaken," she said. "This whole area falls under the HOA jurisdiction. You can't just move in without approval." I pointed to the "No Trespassing" sign on my fence post. "I'm outside your HOA. You have no say over my property." She didn't like that either. Before I could finish unloading, she stomped back to her car. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. 15 minutes later, as I was carrying a recliner into my living room, I heard sirens. 2 sheriff's vehicles rolled up my driveway, lights flashing. My stomach dropped. Deputies got out, hands on their belts, one of them approaching slowly. "Sir," he said. "We got a call about a possible break-in." I blinked. "What?" A neighbor said someone was loading items into a home that's supposed to be unoccupied. I exhaled hard, trying not to laugh out of frustration. "You're kidding me." I showed them my license. Showed them the deed paperwork. I even pulled up the closing email on my phone from the title company. After about 10 minutes of cross-checking, one of the deputies smiled and said, "Well, looks like you're clear." That's when I pointed downhill toward the cul-de-sac and said, "You see that woman standing at the corner with the phone? That's the one who called." He looked. His smile faded. "Karen," he muttered. Turns out, this wasn't her first false report. One of the deputies approached her. I couldn't hear what was said, but I could see the red flush in her cheeks and the furious gesturing. She tried to play it off like she was concerned for neighborhood safety, but the deputy wasn't buying it. Eventually, they left, after apologizing to me, and she stomped back into her house like a storm cloud. But that was only day 1. By day 3, she was back, clipboard in hand, this time with a measuring tape. She claimed I was violating HOA fencing codes. I reminded her again that I wasn't under the HOA. She didn't care. "You're creating an eyesore," she shouted. "Our property values are going to drop if people see junk piling up on your lot." The junk she was referring to? My barn tools. My lawnmower. And a wheelbarrow. Then she threatened to report me to the county. "Go ahead," I said. And she did. A week later, a county inspector showed up, looking sheepish. "I hate to bother you," he said, "but we got a complaint." I showed him my permits, my zoning paperwork, and he just nodded. "Sorry. She's done this to half the valley." Turns out, HOA Karen had filed dozens of complaints in the past year. Against neighbors, delivery drivers, landscapers, even Girl Scouts selling cookies. But again, she had picked the wrong target this time. Because I don't back down easily. I did some digging and found out something interesting. While Karen claimed to be in charge of the neighborhood, her actual HOA authority stopped 15 feet from my property line. She wasn't even on the board anymore. She'd been voted out last year, but just kept acting like she still ran things. I decided it was time to draw the line. Literally. I built a 6-foot privacy fence along the edge of my property, right up to the easement. Karen lost it. "You can't do this," she shrieked as the fence crew hammered posts into the ground. "I can," I replied. "And I am." She called the sheriff again. Same deputy showed up. Same result. This time, he handed her a warning. If you keep abusing 911 for non-emergencies, he said, you could face legal consequences. That shut her up, for a while. But a few days later, I came home to find a sign posted on my fence, property in violation, subject to fines. It looked official, but it wasn't. I followed the phone number on the sign, it went to her house. I took the sign down and filed a report. That's when the sheriff's department officially placed a harassment notice on her record. But I wasn't done. I filed a cease and desist letter through my attorney, citing trespassing, intimidation, and false police reports. Then I did something that made the neighborhood cheer. I printed 200 flyers with the headline, "Not part of your HOA, stop harassing your neighbors." I dropped them in mailboxes, pinned them on the community board, and taped one to my new mailbox, in full view of her window. Neighbors started coming up to me, shaking my hand. One of them said, "We've been waiting for someone to stand up to her for years." Another whispered, "She once fined us for having the wrong shade of blue on our shutters." Suddenly, I wasn't just the new guy. I was the guy who finally stood up to the HOA dictator. 2 months later, Karen sold her house. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't wave. She just left. And you know what? Since then, I've built a greenhouse, added a chicken coop, and even host weekend bonfires for the neighborhood. The same neighbors she used to threaten now bring their kids over to feed the goats. And every now and then, one of them will ask, "Hey, remember when she called the cops on you for moving in?" And we laugh. Because in the end, no Karen, no matter how loud, can stop a man who owns his land and knows his rights. Welcome to my ranch.